Hi, this is Dr. Sandy again, and today we're going to talk about how we can create a sensory-rich classroom and embed sensory experiences into daily life or daily academics. Okay, so sensory processing problems in children seem to have increased in recent years. This could be due to several factors. For example, increased prevalence of autism spectrum disorders and attention deficit disorders, children spending less time outdoors, and an increase in structured, micromanaged play opportunities, which has been to the detriment of free play experiences. Kids of yesteryear grew up in a very sensory-rich environment, filled with grass stains and dirt, chores that involved heavy work, and lots of opportunities to engage in unstructured free play to explore their world. Today, many of the sensory experiences that children have are electronically based, and they lack opportunities to interact with multisensory objects and environments. This lack of sensory experiences can create barriers to typical development. Children are not afforded opportunities to get dirty or messy. On the playground and during play dates, they're watched like hawks to prevent them from getting hurt. And if they do fall, a parent is really quick to make sure they're okay. As a result, they don't learn that it's okay to trip and fall, and in the process, learn how to get back up and try again. The advent of electronic devices have offered tremendous opportunities to learn about pretty much anything in the world. However, the reliance on tablets, phones, and gaming systems for entertainment and education has created barriers to attaining fine and visual motor skills. Kids are not learning how to hold a crayon. They're not learning how to draw and color. All they have to do is tap a space and it gets filled in for them. This lack of exposure to manipulating and operating crayons, markers, pencils, and paintbrushes has resulted in very immature hand grasp patterns with delays in pre-handwriting and handwriting skills. It's very sad that kids today can be very talented at building elaborate worlds with blocks on Minecraft, yet they cannot push together two Legos. Some kids are entering kindergarten never having held a pencil. The following presentation will go through some ways to create a sensory-friendly classroom environment and how to embed sensory activities into the academic day. Hopefully, by the end of this presentation, you will understand how the lack of sensory experiences can interfere with academic skill attainment. You'll be able to identify some ways to modify your classroom environment to accommodate various sensory needs. And you'll brainstorm on how to embed movement and sensory experiences into academics. So let's talk about some environmental modifications that we can do to the classroom to make an environment that is sensory rich. Okay, so in your classroom in general, you can try to mute the lighting. These overhead fluorescent lightings can get a little stressful for some kids. So we can try to mute the lighting by offering a plastic light cover. For example, these can be store-bought. To me, the store-bought ones might be a little cost prohibitive, so I've actually bought from the Dollar Tree, I've bought the plastic tablecloth covers, plastic tablecloths, and then you can attach it around the metal frame of the overhead fluorescent lights with some magnets. So that's a pretty good price point for that. You can also remove like half of the fluorescent bulbs in the classroom. Talk to your building maintenance people to help you with that. Let's also reduce the classroom decorative clutter, okay? Classrooms need to not have so many things hanging from the ceilings or on the walls because it can be very distracting for many students, and they might not be able to filter out the things that are important to look at from the things that are not so important to look at, okay? We want to create and maintain a classroom that is organized with cubbies and bins that are labeled to make it easy for the children to find things. And you also want to perhaps get some of the storage to be stackable because it allows for easy storage, first of all, but it also helps give the kids a gross motor activity to pick up and stack these containers when they're helping you clean up or retrieve items. Another thing we can do is to create a classroom calming corner. Okay, this is a place where students can go to chill out when they're overstimulated or overwhelmed or overstressed. We want to reduce the bright lights in this corner by incorporating a small tent or a DIY cubby. For example, you can use a large moving box or an appliance box and cut out some windows and doors. You can even use a table, as you can see in this bottom picture. You can use a table or a desk as like the ceiling and walls of the calming corner. And the kids can sit under, by doing this table, it'll also reduce that direct overhead light as well. You want to offer some mats or blankets, a nice gentle corner for them to just kind of chill out. Here's some pretty cute ideas taken from the web. The one on the right is the DIY made from a box, where a student can go inside and just unwind or chill out for a little bit. Here's a good source for coming up with some ideas for creating a classroom calming corner. And another good thing to use in this calming corner would be what I found is called the Stop, Breathe, and Think app. This is a really cute app. I think I paid, I want to say less, I know I paid less than $10. It might have been $8 on this app. And it can be installed on an iPad, and kids can go to different missions to calm down. And I'm going to show you an example of that right now.
5-finger breathing. Sit or stand with your back straight and your body relaxed. Open one hand all the way and stretch your fingers like a star. Now, using the pointer finger on your other hand, trace the outline of the hand that's stretched like a star. Start at your wrist near the base of your thumb and slide your pointer finger slowly up one side, 2, 3, and down the other side, 2, 3. Try that with your other fingers too. First your pointer finger, up, 2, 3, and down, 2, 3.
In addition to modifying your classroom, you can also modify an individual student space. This can be done with some alternative seating. For example, we can use a cushion chair or an air cushion. They can stand rather than sitting at their desk. They can lie on their belly on the floor, propped up on their elbows to work on their written work. We can provide some tactile fidgets for them to fidget with. Believe it or not, fidgets actually help increase attention in some students. Okay. We can also add some Velcro and stickers to the underside of their desk, or even to the top of their table or desk, to give their fingers something to rub across. Or if they're kids that are pickers, you can put stickers on a binder or a folder cover that they can pick and peel, and that can help them keep from picking their nose or their fingernails, for example. We can also put a band around the chair legs or the table legs that gives their feet something to fidget with. For students that are affected by the overhead lighting or distracted by the overhead lighting, provide them the opportunity to wear a hat with a visor. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about how we can embed sensory activities into academics. The first thing I want to talk about is the importance of movement. Okay, movement and physical sensory play does so much to help children to learn. The physical act of walking, crawling, or running over and under and around and through various obstacles gives children a whole body sense of these vocabulary terms. Playing with items that kids toss and catch and kick tells their body and their brains how to integrate the concepts of far and close and hard and soft. Movement play requires that we get from here to there in a variety of ways, sometimes on our feet, but sometimes on our hands and feet, on our hands and knees, on wheels, over bridges, etc. All of these require that we take our heads out of midline, which helps our brain to adjust to that. Playing outdoors in nature requires that we are constantly adjusting our body to the uneven terrain, thereby training our body's adaptive positional response, and strengthening our ankles and our entire body. So how can we embed movement concepts or embed movement into academic concepts? So here's an idea. When we're learning about the terminology related to positions, we can use obstacle courses. Have the students move through and over and under, around. Have them stand next to or behind or in front of something. Okay, so helping them to feel those positions in their body while they move to those places helps them to integrate that vocabulary and those terms. Okay, when we're teaching the concepts of hard and soft, or gentle and rough, or fast and slow, or bumpy and smooth, we can have them jump or clap fast and then slow. We can have them clap or jump or march loudly and then softly. Have them hit a ball or a balloon hard and rough and then stroke it gentle and soft. Have them ride a scooter over bumpy pavement and then over smooth tile or smooth pavement. Another good way to embed movement into the everyday academic world would be to put a hallway sensory path. Okay, you can have them work on hopping and spinning and tiptoe walking, balancing, and many, many other skills just by putting a sensory path in the hallway. So here are some more ways we can embed sensory into academics. Okay, so in addition to the movement, we've got some other things we can do. Let's see how we can reinforce learning letters and numbers by making a multisensory activity to promote the kinesthetic sense of how numbers and letters are formed. Here's one. We can have them walk the line. You can tape the letter or number of the week onto the floor. Kids can hop, crawl, walk, skip, etc. To reinforce it even further, provide a visual cue on the correct starting point, and that's where they start walking each time. You can put a sticker of a star or a smiley face at the starting point for that letter or that number. Okay? You can also do body letters. Have kids try to form letters with their body, or with a partner, they can form letters or numbers using their body to make the letters A, B, C, etc. Okay? There's some more sensory things we can do. They can trace the letters or the numbers in glitter gel or just gel in a Ziploc bag, or a sandbox or shaving cream, for example. We can also have them roll out snakes of Play-Doh and then use those snakes to form the letters or the numbers. Or you can also use the Wiki Sticks. The Wiki Sticks, there's another brand called Bendaroos. These are just waxed strings that bend and make the shapes. You can also use pipe cleaners for the same thing. Okay? Here's some ways that we can promote spelling. Now, moving just from letter formation into spelling, we can have them hop from letter to letter on an alphabet or a number pad or a number mat to spell words. You can also do that on the numbers to have them solve arithmetic problems, for example. We can also do something that I call ghostwriting. Okay? Ghostwriting is where a student or a teacher will use their finger to draw a shape or a letter on the back of another student. This student will then try to draw or write what they felt. You can have them do it standing at the whiteboard or on their paper, or even drawing it into sand like we did earlier, or a gel pad. Okay? So you can start very simple with just a vertical or a horizontal line, and then progress to shapes such as a circle, a triangle, or a square, and then progress to more complex shapes or letters. Okay? And once a student's able to correctly copy the individual letter that is drawn on their back, have them work towards maybe drawing two or more letters to form a simple word. So you can actually write the word on their back using your finger, and then they can try to replicate that word on the chalkboard or on their paper. Okay? You can also make this as a game of telephone, for example, in which you have a line of students. One person is at the front of the line at the whiteboard, while each student at the back of the line, in turn, draws the letter on the back of the person in front of them. They progress to the next person and the next person, and finally the person at the whiteboard writes that letter on the board. And it's very fun to see what you started off with at the end of the line to what they felt at the beginning, at the front of the line. Okay. But the good part about ghostwriting is it helps the students to integrate using their whole body the formation of letters, shapes, and numbers. So they feel it with their body and they form it with their hand. So let's use some sensory strategies to embed into math and arithmetic. Okay, so let's say you assign each student in the classroom a different number, okay? And you can make them into a human calculator. Each child is a different number, and you can have others be the plus sign, the minus, the divided, the times, and the equal sign. And they can solve a problem by having the correct answer number stand up, okay, in order of the thing. You can also do musical numbers, okay? This is like musical numbers, but students have to group themselves into a specific number when music stops. So you start the music, they're walking around the room, and then when the music stops and you say the number 3, for example, they have to group themselves into groups of 3, okay? When you're teaching typing, okay, let's move into typing now. You can use the human keyboard. You can actually assign each student a different letter of the alphabet, and then they have to arrange themselves into the QWERTY keyboard, okay? They can even type words. You can, once they've gotten themselves into the QWERTY keyboard in order of the regular keyboard, then you can give them a word and they have to stand up in order. Let's say you have them, you're writing the word cat, for example. The letter C stands up, the letter A stands up, and the person that's the letter T stands up. Okay? So that's a fun way to work on spelling and also the sense of how the keyboard is laid out, but putting movement in there. Okay? The picture on this screen is actually a keyboard poppet. Since kids love poppets nowadays, this is a pretty cool poppet, and you can actually have them type words on this poppet and get some of that sensory information as well. We can also work on reinforcing different concepts such as sequencing and patterns. For sequencing, you can set up an obstacle course or stations that the students need to complete in a certain order. Okay? You also can reinforce patterns or the concept of patterns, considering patterns of movement or silly sounds. For example, the teacher can demonstrate or say a sequence of exercises and the students need to copy. For example, 10 jumps, 3 arm circles, 4 jumping jacks, and 4 toe touches. And then the students would have to copy that pattern. Another example to make it silly would be 3 duck quacks, 4 pig snorts, 2 dog barks, and 1 cat meow. Activities like this are guaranteed to be pretty fun and will help reinforce following the sequence and the patterns and be enjoyable in the process. Another way to help reinforce copying patterns is to have students get in groups of 2 or 3. Each group has a beanbag or a ball, but I suggest a beanbag because if they drop it, they don't bounce away. One student will demonstrate a simple motor sequence. And then in turn, each student will need to replicate and copy that sequence. And then they can take turns being the leader. The following video will show you some examples of this. Okay, so you want to start your motor sequence very simple with 1 step. And then you can progress to 2 and 3 and 4 steps. The first student starts the motor sequence and then passes it to the next student who then copies and replicates that sequence. You can make the sequence as complex and as silly as you want to keep the students engaged. For those students who have a difficult time with the actual motor actions, such as tossing the ball in the air, they can pass it back and forth or pass it under their leg instead of lifting their leg up. Another good way that we can reinforce the concepts of following directions would be to use food crafts. Kids love food crafts. And food and other types of crafts that are not food crafts are great ways to learn how to follow a sequence of instructions while interacting with a variety of textures and smells and possibly tastes. Okay, and there are a ton of ideas on Pinterest for various food crafts to follow different themes. The picture on the screen is one that I had done at a previous job when we were following the theme of Under the Sea, and the kids absolutely loved this craft. Another thing you can do, another concept you can work on with food crafts or other crafts would be to interpret the information that is given in a recipe or in directions to determine what the important details are from the unimportant details. For example, you can have students look up a recipe or a craft and have them write down the needed supplies that they need. Okay? Teach them and then coach them on how to write only the pertinent information. For example, if the recipe calls for a quarter cup of flour, they should be instructed and learn that flour is the important detail to write down on a shopping list. Quarter cup is not important for a shopping list. It's important later when following the directions, but it's not important for the shopping list. Okay, this can reinforce scanning written information for important details. And alternatively, they can also look up videos of crafts or recipes and write a shopping list of needed items from that. And this will help reinforce the concept of listening for the important information, which is very important in the upper grades as they learn to take notes from lectures. All right, so what can we do when our students need to calm down? Okay, we want to give them heavy work, okay? Heavy work is things that require them to push or pull against gravity, okay? Things that they can do in the classroom. They can put chairs or tables back. They can carry heavy items like books, stack books, stack those stackable bins we talked about earlier. Erasing the whiteboard use large motions and pushing on the whiteboard. They can do wall pushes where they're trying to push the wall over. Moving chairs and desks, sliding classroom rugs, for example. Heavy work activities can help to calm an overstimulated system. You can also work on calming the senses using slow movements such as yoga poses. Okay? We can also incorporate calming scents into the classroom environment. Floral scents such as lavender and chamomile, vanilla, and some herbs such as rosemary and basil can be very calming. Other things we can do for calming include heavy work for the mouth, okay? Things such as sucking through a straw or chewing gum or chewing foods that's chewy like beef jerky or Twizzlers. We also are going to want to darken the room by turning off some lights and using some natural light from the windows. Rocking chair can be very good for calming as well. Linear movement, which is forward and backward, has been known to be very calming for many people. You also might consider having a beat of the metronome, okay, playing in the background. You can get a metronome app on any device, and you can just have it set for, let's try maybe 60 beats a minute, which corresponds to 1 second per beat. And just having that beat in the background has been really good at helping kids to focus and be calm. Here is a calming movement break exercise wheel. Okay, so in your spare time, you can click on this link, and I can send this link out to you later, and on it you will have the wheel of names. Okay, and I'm just going to demonstrate that on this next slide. Okay, so if you were to put that link into your browser, it's going to come to this calming movement break exercise wheel. And all you have to do, and you can pull this up on your smartboard and have the kids tap it, or you can use the mouse and click, and it's just going to spin the wheel, and it's going to come up with an exercise, and the kids who need a calming break can do the exercise. And you can choose to remove that item, that exercise from the wheel so it doesn't have a double spin, or you don't have to, okay? And then the next time you use this link, the same wheel will show up, so it won't remove them permanently. Okay, so what happens if our students are lethargic and need to be more alert? Sometimes this can happen after lunch, sometimes, especially with the time change, when we fall back, for example, and our students are more lethargic. What can we do? So just like there were calming scents, there are also alerting scents. Some of these might include pine or citrus, eucalyptus and other mints. Cloves is another example. Offering snacks that are crunchy or spicy or sour can also alert the mouth. Okay, and movement activities that involve jumping and bouncing are very good to help alert. Just like we had a calming exercise wheel, the following link here has the movement, the alerting exercise wheel. Okay, so it works the same way as the other one. It just has a few different exercises on it. And now we'll close with a few final thoughts. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about brain break frequency. In general, brain breaks should be short, about 30 to 60 seconds, but frequent, starting at around every 15 minutes for kindergartners and increasing to about every 45 to 50 minutes by middle school. Brain breaks are short movement breaks that help get the brain focused and the body active. Brain breaks should take place before fatigue, boredom, distraction, and inattention sets in. Sensory breaks, on the other hand, should be longer, about 10 to 12 minutes, but less frequent. For example, approximately every hour in kindergarten, increasing to every 2 hours by 4th grade. I don't have a frequency set up for preschool simply because I really believe that the entire preschool day should be a sensory experience. So sensory should be built into all activities that the kids do in preschool. Thanks for watching, everybody.